Imagine waking up one day to the shocking realization that the world's second largest continent is splitting apart. Yes, Africa is literally tearing itself in two, and most people have no idea this is happening. What if I told you that beneath the serene landscapes of East Africa, a dramatic and slow-motion geological event is unfolding that will change the shape of our planet forever? The ground is cracking, huge valleys are forming, and in the distant future, a massive new ocean could emerge right where land once stood. Now, this isn't science fiction. This is happening right now, and in today's video, we're diving deep into this mind-blowing event to uncover why Africa is splitting into two. We'll explore what's causing this rift, how it's changing the landscape, and what this means for the future of our planet. So stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll not only understand this monumental event, but also realize how it could impact millions of people living in Africa and beyond. The rift that could change everything. Let's get straight to the point. Africa is breaking apart. It's not something that will happen overnight, but it's a process that has already begun. In the eastern part of Africa, a giant crack is forming in the Earth's crust, and this crack is slowly but surely pulling the continent apart. This geological process is called continental rifting, and it's happening at a snail's pace, about a few millimeters to an inch per year. You might be wondering, if it's moving so slowly, why should we care? Well, let's just say that the effects of this process are already visible and the implications are colossal. In 2005, something remarkable happened in Ethiopia. A huge rift opened up almost overnight, more than 35 miles long and 20 feet wide. This was just one sign of the growing rift that could eventually split Africa into two separate landmasses. This isn't just a small crack, it's part of a rift system that stretches over, quote, 2,000 miles, from the Red Sea down to Mozambique. This rift is part of the East African Rift. It's like pulling apart the pieces of a cracked eggshell. Eventually, those pieces are going to drift far enough apart that something new will form in between them. In Africa's case, what will form is a brand new ocean, and with it, two separate continents. Why is Africa splitting apart? So, why is this happening? To understand that, we need to talk about think of the Earth's crust like a giant jigsaw puzzle. When the pieces or plates move, they can either push against each other, slide past one another, or, as in Africa's case, pull away from each other. In the case of the East African Rift, and it's also why Africa is gradually splitting into two. But this isn't just happening in Africa. The movement of tectonic plates is responsible for shaping the entire planet. Millions of years ago, all of the continents we know today were once part of a supercontinent called Pangaea. Over time, tectonic forces pulled Pangaea apart, creating the continents and oceans we see today. Now, we're witnessing the same forces at work again, and Africa is at the center of it. Visible changes on the surface. One of the most striking things about this rifting process is that it's already visible on the ground. You don't have to wait millions of years to see the effects. In fact, in places like Kenya and Ethiopia, massive cracks have already appeared in the ground. In some cases, these cracks have split roads, houses, and farms in two, leaving people to wonder what's happening beneath their feet. Take the example of the Great Rift Valley. This enormous valley runs through several countries, including Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. It's a dramatic example of how the Earth's surface is being pulled apart. In some places, the valley is over a mile deep and several miles wide. It's an incredible sight, but it's also a powerful reminder that the ground we stand on is far from stable. In fact, in the coming years, we might see more dramatic changes. As the rift continues to grow, more of the land will sink, forming deep valleys and eventually a sea. But this process is not without its dangers. As the ground stretches and cracks, it can also cause earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. In fact, there are already several active volcanoes along the East African Rift, and as the rift grows, the likelihood of more volcanic activity increases. What will happen in the future? Now, the big question: what will happen to Africa in the future? Scientists estimate that in the distant future, the rift will have pulled apart so much that the Somalian plate will completely detach from the rest of the African continent. When that happens, water from the Indian Ocean will rush in, creating a new ocean. Africa will be split into two separate land masses, one that includes most of the continent and another smaller piece that contains parts of East Africa, including Somalia, Kenya, and Tanzania. This new ocean will change the map of Africa forever. Countries that are currently landlocked, like Ethiopia and Uganda, could suddenly find themselves with coastlines, opening up new opportunities for trade and development. It's a powerful reminder that our planet is constantly changing and that we're living on a dynamic and ever-shifting world. What's causing the rift? Now, let's dig deeper into what's actually causing this rift. This is a slow process, so slow that you wouldn't notice it happening unless you were watching it over the course of millions of years. But just because the rift is growing slowly doesn't mean it's not dangerous. As the ground stretches and fractures, it can trigger earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. In fact, some of the world's most active volcanoes, including Mount Nyiragongo and Mount Erta Ale, are located along the East African Rift. These volcanoes are a constant reminder that the rift is alive and that the forces shaping it are still at work. The human impact. While the scientific implications of Africa's split are fascinating, we also need to consider the human impact. Millions of people live along the East African Rift, and they are already feeling the effects of the rifting process. In some places, entire villages have been displaced by cracks in the ground, and farmers have seen their land split in two. As the rift grows, more and more people could be forced to relocate. The creation of a new ocean could flood large areas of land, potentially displacing millions of people. This could lead to economic and political challenges for the countries affected as they try to adapt to a changing landscape. On the other hand, the formation of a new ocean could also create new opportunities. In conclusion, the fact that Africa is splitting into two continents is not just an interesting geological phenomenon. It's a monumental event that could reshape the world as we know it. While it may take millions of years for the process to be complete, the effects of the rift are already visible, and they will continue to shape the landscape of East Africa for years to come. So, the next time you look at a map of Africa, remember that what you're seeing is only temporary. The continent is changing, and one day in the distant future, it will look completely different. Stay tuned for more incredible insights into the fascinating world we live in, and don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing content.